Welcome inside the studio with Hubbard Street Dance, Chicago.
I first saw the piece in 2017 at Towson University, and the first thing about Touch and Agree is that it moved me. It's an emotional piece, it's a fun piece, it transcends time, it's gritty, it's funky, and I can't wait for audiences to see the Hubbard Street dancers in the work.
Well, I think it's been an honor just to be here at Hubbard Street. Anytime that a choreographer can walk into a studio and feel like, there's so many different bodies, so many different inspirations. And I think for me, I always feel like I'm creating art and it's like I'm creating another piece for a museum exhibit. So I feel like in revisiting this piece, it has just been about what does love look like in 2025? And, there have been different things that I've just been trying to just rejuvenate and just embellish on. And I think the dancers here have really made that easy to do that.
It feels like it's a new creation with us, and I think it's really special to be able to have a choreographer who's still wanting to shift and adapt something that was already pretty set from the original creation and everything, but he's still reworking, revamping, very much so learning us as he's creating the piece. And so it doesn't feel that we're trying to kind of replicate what's already happened. It very much so feels like we're in process with him. And I think that's really special to be able to have.
The piece started in 2009. It was a prompt that a friend gave me to do a piece about sexuality. And when I was paired with another dancer in Atlanta, what I found most interesting is that I was actually creating a blueprint for navigation of love. Nobody teaches you about love, especially in the queer space. And I felt like it was important. It was important for me to identify the trouble spots that were happening. So this piece has been the impetus of how I show up in the world.
His story is very personal. What's unique is how he kind of assembled these different vignettes and different stories to portray the many facets of love and relationships. And I think that there's something in there for everybody to relate to.
I feel like it has a really wide range. I feel like there are moments that were extremely silky and it's almost like watching a ribbon fall, and then there's moments that are really staccato. And I also like the way that he is kind of fusing multiple forms inside of his movement language. We're going from more contemporary balletic movement into hip hop, cultural even inspired movements as well, kind of all existing in the same snow globe.
There's no better job than just to come and say, I'm going to go in the studio and play for so many hours. So typically the first day is just kind of getting your feet wet, and I start off with just a phrase, just so I can kind of see who's in the room, fill out the personalities. But with Hubbard, you find out in about 15 minutes, you're like, okay, they're all amazing, so what do I do next? And I feel like it's just been entering the space with patience and leaning towards their artistic merits that they naturally do as performers.
I hope that audiences are moved just like I was when I first saw the piece. I hope that they are able to see themselves in the work, whether it's their own relationships. Also want them to be able to move their bodies in their seats. It's groovy, there's a lot of funk, there's a lot of opportunities to kind of connect that way. You can't actually help but move in your seat when you see the piece.
Jewel is really interested in the way that we are specifically going to interpret and navigate what he's giving us. I feel that for me, a struggle that I've had is allowing myself to fully just play with what we're given versus trying to set something or be correct on something or to do it exactly the way that Gabby in the room is doing it, because she's also been extremely clear, Jewel's assistant. But I do think that a triumph from that has definitely just been allowing myself to play in the space that's been created by Jewel. It really can just be a prairie to run through, and I think that it's been fun to allow myself to do that.
The thing that I find the most unique about all the dancers is that, they are humans. And I think every human that you come in contact with is going to offer a new perspective. And so every time that I have done this work, people have put on something a little bit special to give me inspiration. And I just love how they just pick up the movement. I love that everybody is open to process. I love that they are willing to go deeper and lean into the work. So that is always satisfying to see.
He gave us permission, but also kind of instruction to make sure that we check in with each other before we start the duet, and then also make sure that we check out. And I think that is so important to be able to do, but that agency and also that permission, invitation, statement, like all of that, to include that really speaks to how he cares about the work, and then also how much he cares about the journey that he knows we're going through within the duet, and knowing that we can step into and we can also step back out of it, and that relationship that's happening in that moment, it's not how our relationship actually is. It's just like, this is what it is for the next 7 minutes. We'll check in, we'll check back out, and if we need to maybe fix something, if we need to like take a moment, you have space to do that. And I thought that was really special that he took the time to articulate that, especially fairly early on in the process of like learning everything and making sure that was already ingrained in how we're going through the work.
I just love the fact that I'm able to just continue to work on something that was created 16 years ago, which a lot of artists may find like, you know, let me move on to the next chapter in my life, but there's something timeless. Like when I created the piece, it was about how do I create something timeless, even starting with the first initial song, Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke is timeless, you know, it's like once you have something so breathtaking, it's hard to escape that. So I am just so excited about creating that.